Hey everybody, Jordan with the Young Turks and TYT Politics. Hope your Tuesday's going well. I'm in New York, headed to DC tomorrow for some reporting for the Young Turks, and we'll be hanging around kind of between DC and New York over the next week until the first presidential debate. I wanted to get into a very, very big hypothetical today. So the disclaimer would be this is very, very unlikely to happen, but I think you should know kind of what's going on in the background and how the Democrats, as per usual, behind closed doors, are preparing to screw Bernie Sanders like they clearly did throughout the primary. So obviously, I reported yesterday on Hillary Clinton's collapse. You can't really call it anything else. From the weekend, a lot of you have, shot back at me that you wanted me to go further and, tell that, speculate and pretty much that I'm basically buying into the media's narrative and the media myth that she has pneumonia and all this stuff. I responded to some of you individually, but how I look at it is I'm not going to play doctor on the internet to appease people. And I look at it more, as much as you might dislike a person, politician or not, sometimes you got to remove that person's name from the situation and look at it like you would look at it for anyone else. So if I look at it for anyone else, I wouldn't play doctor, taking guesses what he or she has based on, looking at them in speeches and this and that. I mean, I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor. And it would be unprofessional and wildly speculative of me to be saying, I think Hillary Clinton has Parkinson's or epilepsy or MS or this or that. I'm just not going to go there. So, be mad if you want. There's plenty of people in progressive media that will tell you what you want to hear and kind of feed the conspiracy theory flames. I'm not going to do that. But moving forward, with Hillary Clinton's health scare, she was off the campaign trail yesterday. As of now, she's off the campaign trail today. Husband Bill Clinton has taken over for her and is going to the West Coast to fulfill her fundraising obligations because we know they can't leave dollars on the table. They are the Clintons, after all. There's been a little behind closed doors hand-wringing among Democrats. What if she has to drop out? What if she can't finish? What if? Again, it's highly unlikely. Pneumonia with antibiotics can be treated. I think this woman has craved for this position most of her life, and I don't think she's going to be dropping out, frankly, unless she's dead or in jail. But you should know what's going on in the background. So it's come out that Democrats are starting, establishment Democrats have spoken about we need to get our ducks in order in the event that she drops out. And there's been reports. David Schuster, who used to report for MSNBC, Al Jazeera, he tweeted out from a DNC delegate source, if Hillary Clinton withdraws, every indication now, committee, meaning the DNC, will vote to replace with Vice President Joe Biden. Bernie Sanders' team scrambling. So I trust David Schuster. He's usually spot on. I've reached out to Bernie Sanders folks that I know. One has gotten back to me, kind of pouring cold water on that, saying there's not much discussion going on about it because, again, it's highly hypothetical. Nobody thinks she's going to drop out. This person has typically been straight with me, never steered me wrong. So to my knowledge, Bernie Sanders' team is not scrambling. However, I don't put it past the Democrats to try to force feed Vice President Biden in the event that Hillary Clinton is not able to finish. I want to read you the DNC bylaws for what would happen in the event that the Democratic nominee were unable to finish the race, would drop out of the race, what have you. Let me get to it here. It's special meetings of the National Committee may be held upon the call of the chairperson with the approval of the executive committee with reasonable notice to the members, and no action may be taken at such a special meeting unless such proposed action was included in the notice of the special meeting. The document reads, The foregoing notwithstanding, a special meeting to fill a vacancy on the national ticket shall be held on the call of the chairperson. No proxy vote shall be taken. That's a big mixed bowl of I don't even know what that is. It makes no sense. But essentially, the DNC and the chairperson would decide who replaces Hillary Clinton in the event she were not able to finish. So the current DNC chair, temporary chair, is Donna Brazile, lifelong Democrat, Democratic operative, ran Vice President Al Gore's campaign in 2000. CNN contributor for many years, stepped in after Debbie Wasserman Schultz was forced to resign. I think that Donna Brazile would not want Bernie Sanders to be the nominee. I think that the Democratic establishment, it's very clear, would not want Bernie Sanders to be the nominee. But I also think that Joe Biden, in particular, he's not a stupid politician. Yes, he would like to be president. I think he thinks that if he stepped in at the last minute, he could take down Trump. I think Joe Biden has a lot of that blue collar worker talk that would appeal to the Rust Belt. But I don't think he's stupid, and I think he knows that if he were to Bigfoot Bernie Sanders, who had over 1,800 delegates in total, won 22 states, won 46% of the vote, has the highest popularity ratings of any candidate in the race. When there were other Republicans in the race, when there were other Democrats in the race, Bernie Sanders had the highest popularity. Since then, since dropping out, has been a good soldier for the Democratic Party. To many of your dismay, endorsed Hillary Clinton. At the DNC, put forth endorsing her. Frankly, left progressive candidates like Tim Canova in Florida, high and dry. I don't think Joe Biden is that politically ignorant where he thinks he's just going to step in and there's not going to be a humongous, I'm talking Occupy Wall Street levels, maybe worse, revolt against the Democrats and against him. Not him in particular, but the complete arrogance and the complete discard of the will of the people. Because you can't just put Joe Biden in there and say this is the will of the people. No, this is the will of Democratic corporatists. This is the will of Democratic establishment members who don't want money out of politics, who don't want someone like Bernie Sanders an inch from the White House, because then they will actually have to, hold your breath, fight with ideas, not money. They've been fighting with money and giving blowjobs to lobbyists and corporations for decades. They don't know anymore how to fight with virtue and, morality and how to represent people instead of special interests. And they're not interested at this stage in their career. Most politicians, not spring chickens anymore. They've been around the block. They're not interested in wholesale change, internally or externally. So I think there's a conflation of things going on. Now, the bottom line is, I'm not a doctor. Again, I think pneumonia is a treatable thing. My understanding from everything I've read is she has walking pneumonia, which is, it's pneumonia, but I've had walking pneumonia in the past. I felt like shit a couple years ago, went to the doctor, took blood. I had walking pneumonia. I didn't even know it. So it didn't completely, knock me on my feet. I was still working, this and that. It sounds to me that's what she has. Again, it's possible there's other health issues she has that we don't know about. But me wildly speculating about that, it's irresponsible. Sure, it's going to, make some of you, happy, and you hate Hillary Clinton, this and that. Again, plenty of journalists, plenty of YouTubers who will feed those flames for you. I'm not going to do that. I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. That's propaganda. But, the bottom line is Hillary Clinton, she's 68. This is not me being sexist because she's a woman. I'd say the same thing if this were happening to Donald Trump. It's a grueling schedule to travel as much as a presidential candidate does. I travel maybe a half of that, and it's grueling for me. And I'm about to be 30 next week. So when you contract something like pneumonia, it doesn't resolve itself on its own. So if you start looking at poll numbers dropping, if she's unable to really get back on the trail, if she gets back on the trail but she has a relapse and has to come off the trail, you're going to start seeing some panic in Democratic circles, particularly if Trump keeps rising up in the polls. A new NBC/Survey Monkey poll this morning has Clinton up 4 points nationally, down from 6 points last week. A lot of the swing state polls, Nevada, Arizona, New Hampshire, are all now within the margin of error. Clinton up 1 or 2 percentage points, or Trump up 1 or 2 percentage points. Trump is going hard with this. Hillary Clinton called half of his supporters a basket of deplorables. I mean, it would be very difficult for the Democrats to force Hillary Clinton out. But make no mistake, if her polls tank, if she's not able to get back out there with a very fluid and, strong logistical campaign where she could travel a lot, she could go east to west, and, not look frail, Democrats will sell Hillary Clinton down the river as quickly as possible if they think Donald Trump's going to be president. If they think it's possible that Donald Trump will be president with the Republican Senate and House, because then it's, lights out for America, in my view. So I want to talk more about the Bernie Sanders angle. Now, Bernie Sanders, I've criticized him for being a little naive. I've criticized him for, going to a knife fight with a spoon, which was pretty much his philosophy during the Democratic primary. I think part of it was he was noble and wanted to fight with ideas and win on issues and all that. But he kind of forgot you're facing one of the biggest political machines in the country, maybe in the world, and they have no problem with lying, with fighting dirty, and they did it throughout the primary, with, feeding the media with the Bernie Bros myth and all this stuff. So I think Bernie Sanders, if Joe Biden or the Democratic Party were to try to Bigfoot him, I can't get in the man's head, but I would have a very, very difficult time thinking Bernie Sanders would just step aside and say, yep, for the good of the country, it's Biden. I mean, this man is just turned 75, and frankly, the Democratic bylaws could say whatever it wants, but it would totally be discarding the will of the people to insert Joe Biden, who has not campaigned, has gone for Clinton and a few local candidates. He went down for Patrick Murphy, the darling of the establishment, who got $1 million from his father in the last stretch of the race. Joe Biden hasn't been campaigning. Joe Biden didn't win a primary. I understand why he didn't run. His son tragically passed away and he decided not to run. Totally, understand that. But, him entering the race now, optically, I mean, if people think Bernie Sanders' movement is fractured and kind of going in different directions, let me tell you something. The one thing that would bring everybody together, and then some, would be the Democratic Party trying to essentially Bigfoot Bernie Sanders and force feed Joe Biden in. Do I think Joe Biden is better than Hillary Clinton? Yes, I do. I think he's more genuine. I think he truly is not just spewing blue-collar stuff. I think he truly, that's where he comes from. That's what his DNA is, to really think about the average worker. However, Joe Biden has taken money from the corporations, and he's played the lobbyist game. He's voted for the wars. He's not totally, absolved of all ill will and all poor decision making. Nobody is, including Bernie Sanders. So, at the end of the day, I think it's something to monitor closely. I don't think it's likely that Hillary Clinton is going to drop out, but you should know what the Democratic bylaws say. You should know that behind closed doors, there's already, the machines going, get Biden prepared. I think the Democratic committee would make it seem like it's this transparent thing, and they want to hear from everybody. They want to hear from the progressives. They want to hear from whatever. Within a week, probably less than that, they would push Biden in. And, push it as, he is the perfect rescue, the savior at the last minute to, continue the Obama legacy, being that he's Obama's vice president. So I'm not trying to rev you up. There's nothing to be revved up about yet. But I do think if you haven't gotten it through your head how arrogant the Democratic Party is, how really they just give lip service to progressives. I mean, Hillary Clinton has a progressive liaison. She needs an actual staffer to be a liaison to the progressive community. I mean, this is what you deal with, because they're not natural progressives. So they don't want a progressive Democratic nominee. I think if Biden said no, I think they try to ram through Tim Kaine, frankly. And I think Tim Kaine would lose. I do. I think my pinky has more charisma than Tim Kaine. Nice guy, but just doesn't have it politically. So, and terrible record on war and, the same things with Wall Street money and all that. So just have it in the back of your mind that this is what the Democratic Party thinks of you. They think that if, Armageddon came, and which Hillary Clinton dropping out to them is Armageddon. We know they've wanted her since 2014, maybe even 2012. Let's be real. But if Armageddon came, this is what they're going to try to do. So you should be prepared for it. I'm not nothing about violence, but I do think it would very, very seriously call for nonviolent, serious protest in the way of Occupy Wall Street, because that would be about more than just this presidency. That would be about democracy. That's undemocratic to try to force a candidate of your choice, of a bunch of corporate Democrats in a room, their choice, rather than the American people. And let's not forget, Hillary Clinton, during the debate about the superdelegates, said Bernie Sanders is trying to defy the will of the American people. Well, that would be defying the will of the American people. So that's the deal. That's the news when it comes to contingency plans. They are talking behind closed doors about Biden. Hillary Clinton, not on the campaign trail yesterday, not on the campaign trail today. She went on with Anderson Cooper last night. She said, I didn't think it would be a big deal, so I didn't tell anyone. I mean, I think if you're running for president and you have pneumonia, it might be something you might want to mention. I don't think even the most objective people would crush you for taking a day or two off from the campaign trail to rest up. It's the secrecy. It's when she essentially fainted. They said she overheated, and then only hours later says she has pneumonia. I think it's all and reporting since says as soon as she got in the car, when she drank water and felt a little better, was in the AC, then she started scrambling, calling her advisors to talk about the political fallout. This is a woman who only cares about optics. And you know what? You should take care of yourself, whether you're running for president or not. I need to take my own advice. I don't take care of myself as well as I should.